Today on V8 Extra, it's time for the V8 Supercar Championship to get back to work. Next weekend, play resumes for the second half of the series with a Coates Hire Ipswich 300 at XTRA. Todd Kelly from Jack Daniels Racing is our special guest. Mark Larkham slips into jargon-busting mode. And we'll check in with Matt White in the newsroom for all the latest chat. All on V8 Extra.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to V8 Extra once again. Great to be back at home base. We've been here, there and everywhere in the past couple of weeks and looking forward to a resumption of play. Next weekend, play resumes out at Queensland Raceway. We've got the Coates Hire Ipswich 300 and looking forward to an all-new format to talk about. To help us through the whole story, Mark Larkham. Afternoon.
Thank you, mate.
Nice to have you with us again. We've been going this since 1999. It's been a while now and you've dragged out a few facts and figures to help give us a bit of a form guide.
Well, mate, firstly, I'd say if I got $1 for every lap I've done at this joint, I'd be a millionaire. But look, really, if you look at who's won there in recent times, you know, Craig Lowndes, 6 wins, Garth Tander, 5 wins. Russell Ingall, look for a bit of form there from Russell. Russell and James Courtney, 3 wins apiece. Scafie's had a couple. Mark Winterbottom's won there a couple of times. And in terms of pole positions, really, Garth Tander and Jamie Whincup at 3 poles each in the recent era are probably the masters of that.
Probably when you look over the years, even though the place has from time to time been criticised a little bit for not being overly exciting, everybody can see every single millimetre of the racetrack and it always turns on a good show. And that's what we're hoping to get next weekend. Let's have a look at the championship point scenario at the moment. You can see it's still pretty tight at the top. 186 points as we go into the second and very important half of this championship. Teammates Whincup over Lowndes. Shane Van Gisbergen in position 3. And as I've said on the show previously, that next bunch of cars involving Rick Kelly all the way down to Garth Tander and a little bit beyond, it's incredibly tight there. And I think we're going to see an awesome second half of this championship. Time now to welcome our special guest today who joins us from Jack Daniels Racing, Todd Kelly. It's always a pleasure to welcome you to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Todd.
Nice to have you here, mate. Now, let's talk about your year to date. An outstanding performance from both you and your brother when we're in New Zealand for the ITM Hamilton 400. You're up on the podium, but it's been a bit of an up and down year. What's it been like from your point of view? Yeah,
it certainly hasn't been ideal. It's been a tough start. I had a good round at New Zealand, but I think I've had 4 DNFs so far this year, and it just really hasn't clicked. You know, we've changed a lot of stuff on the cars, and the biggest issue is qualifying. Now, if you don't qualify up into the top 10, you're going to have hard weekends, and I haven't had many rounds this year where the whole thing's come together and I've started the weekend off well, so it's been pretty tough.
Todd, got to ask you, as we approach Queensland Raceway, they've put out a new format. I mean, we've talked about formats a lot. We love the fact that they mix them up. So we've got Saturday's race, 2 short races, 22 laps each, with a 15-minute window in between to service and turn the cars around. That'll be exciting. And then a 200k race on Sunday. Do you like this concept of mixing the formats up? I mean, this is completely new.
I think it's good. We get into a bit of a rut with the racing. There's long races. The way you've got to go about a race and how you attack people in the car, you've got to be very sensible about not burning the tyres off it. In a short race like that, which we're going to have at Queensland, all of that's out the window and you just drive the thing as hard as you can. And to throw 1 or 2 of those into the mix every year is quite enjoyable. I can't wait to get there.
It's going to be a little bit rally-esque in a sense, isn't it? Because the cars are literally going to go into a service period. So the points are split, for example. So where we're normally dealing with 150 points for a win, it's 75 a win. It's like one race split into 2 and designated as such. So we've got 16 and 17 on Saturday and then 18 on Sunday.
I've got to jump in. I've just written a letter this morning that I want to quickly get to. I reckon they need to put a big boom gate at the end of pit lane. I can see blokes coming down there and you just got to get underneath the boom gate. I reckon that'd be great.
Larko wants to turn the whole thing into WWF and just make it even more complicated. But I mean, top marks to everybody at head office for having a crack and fiddling with the format because it keeps the question marks in the whole thing.
Look at the range of winners, mate, in the last 12 months.
Yeah, looking forward to getting up there. You've had some success out there.
Yeah, a few podiums. We generally, the last few years, have struggled a little bit at Queensland, but again, I can't wait to get there because we struggled at Townsville as a team, and this year was probably the best that we've gone there. So Queensland's another one of those tracks where we're hoping for some pretty big improvements, and whether it's a short race or a long race, hopefully we should be up there for one of them.
Keep your fingers crossed. Now, we've been scouring through the archives and blowing aside the dust, just like Larko when he reaches into his wallet. And we pulled out some beauties in the history of Queensland Raceway. We'll go to the break and let's celebrate Paul Radisich way back in 2001, the Queensland 500, the Rat at work.
And the Shell Ford takes the lead. Look look at the rain. It is pouring. Oh, he's gone. Radicic, the race leader, is gone. And apparently the race has been red flagged. Russell Eagle has won. Well, hang on a minute. Or it might go back one lap. We have had confirmation from race control that Paul Radicic and Junior Johnson are the winners of the Queensland 500.
Morris and Jason Richards. Whoa! Oh! Exactly the same problem. Straight up and over that ripple strip, which has been questioned by many of the senior drivers. And Jason Richards, a monumental accident.
Frightening moment at Queensland Raceway back in 2005 it was. Jason Richards and Paul Morris. In fact, that was the trigger for changing that exit curb at the exit down there of turn 3. Our special guest today is Todd Kelly in the studio here, Jack Daniels Racing. And Todd, we were down at your workshop. We did a workshop special at Jack Daniels Racing about this time last year, and you were talking about the empire striking back, the ever-expanding Todd Kelly Racing empire. Give us a bit of an update on where the building's at the moment.
Well, it's been a little bit slow. Melbourne weather certainly put the handbrake on the project, but we've got a lot of support with all of the materials for the new facility, but we've been doing the majority of the labour ourselves. So Dad's been driving up and back from Mildura with the hammer and nail bag and just doing as much as we can between races. So it's not far off lock-up, but certainly coming along.
So Todd was spending his day on the phone, you know, put a sticker on the car-free gutter, sticker on the car-free roof.
Yeah.
Mate, God knows you're going to need it. 5 cars at Bathurst. Now, I reckon that's unheard of. You got the TV show thing happening, 5 cars. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's a pretty big thing. It's a lot of work for the guys. The workload for all the components obviously filters through all the departments, gearboxes and engines and all that sort of stuff is a bit more work. But we've actually got a lot of guys that aren't full-time in the team to run the 5th car. So people that have done a lot of subcontract work. So all the guys that run our 4 cars aren't impacted on the Bathurst weekend. We've got a great bunch of guys to run that car well.
Well, we thought it was appropriate, given that you're sitting here in the studio, to get back out to your workshop. Aaron Noonan is on location at Kelly Racing, and you can bring to light for us, Noons, what this expansion looks like.
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. I mean, it's the perfect way, isn't it? We get Todd up there and I get to come and have a look here. Now, they've really been busy here with the engine shop's going to go in here, all the machining facilities you can see here, just outside the existing workshop as it sits at the moment. So there's plenty happening here. And you talked about, too, the Bathurst wildcard entry. Well, we've got a world exclusive for you on V8 Extra today. Todd's going to be absolutely really nervous right now because right here under this cover is the car that Grant Denyer and a to-be-confirmed driver will drive at the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000 in October. Now, do you reckon he's getting nervous? Because I think we're going to just wheel out the... no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Is he sweating?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
What if I... No, I won't do it again. I won't do it again. We won't reveal this car. It will be later on in the year, so keep an eye on 7, mate, on the series. But what we will do is have a chat to Pepsi Max Crew's Greg Murphy. Gregory, welcome to V8 Extra. Are you going to get the crayons out and design the next livery on this car? It changes every time I look at it.
Yeah, well, it's exciting, though. I mean, look at this. I think this was unveiled a few weeks ago in Townsville, and everybody loved it. Absolutely loved it. I think the green really stands out, but one of the favourites amongst the fans for sure.
First year for you at Kelly Racing, a reunification with the boys Rick and Todd because you've been teammates with them before. We're halfway through the season now, 7 events down, 7 to go. What's your report card and what's your take on this season?
Yeah, listen, I think we're going to have to be pretty tough on ourselves. You know, it has been so far, you know, not the results we wanted, but you know, it's been some good looks at some good results there, but hasn't come off. We've had some good speed at times, but we just got to find that consistency. And Townsville, you know, we're looking like we were going to actually get a result there until a Phantom safety car came out in the second race, which was a bit disappointing and ruined our day.
What about you and pit exit there?
Oh, well, you know, it's just who knows what happens there. It's just a bit of a lottery on who gets penalties these days for the same things. But we got one for crossing the line and someone else didn't get one for crossing the line. But, you know, you've got to take these things, and we don't really understand how it works. But we certainly get penalised for doing things. But the ones that give us the penalties don't get in trouble for making bad decisions.
next weekend, Queensland Raceway, a track that a lot of drivers are noted for not really liking, and your record not terribly great there, but in terms of Kelly Racing, the development's not been too bad this year. Things are going the right direction.
Yeah, well, Todd and I actually looked on having a win there a long time ago. I think we might have ran out of fuel. He probably can confirm that. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to all the races. It's been great going to all the races this year, and I've been enjoying it a lot. And you know, as I say, we've still got a lot of work to do and a lot to try and improve on. So this one will just be one of those.
For a guy who looked like you were going to be out of a full-time drive last year, it's got to be nice to at least be back. You look like a much more relaxed Greg Murphy, not too intense.
So relaxed I didn't bother shaving today. Yeah.
We wish you all the best. Great to catch up with Greg Murphy and the Pepsi Max crew. I hope Todd's not going to hurt me because I didn't unveil that car, though, I swear. Keep an eye for later in the year, though, and you get to see what the Shannon's Mars Commodore looks like.
He's about to jump back on an aeroplane, Aaron. I reckon he's going to make his way straight out to that workshop. If I were you, I'd get in the car and get the hell out of there because Kelly is after you for revealing bits and pieces of that car. Murph's done a great job for you so far, if I can quickly jump in there, Todd.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he's really put in. He's massively into the gym. We couldn't be happier with him. He's put on a good show for us.
And it's a great brand to have involved in the series. We make the point that having those people involved and all the promotional stuff that they're doing at Pepsi is fantastic for the series.
Yeah, it's a great fit. It's exactly what Rick and I, see in the team. Young, cool liveries and a lot of hype around the place. It's great.
Space for Larko and I on that basis. If it's all about being young, we're going to take
groovy.
That's us, hip and groovy. We'll take a break on V8 Extra. Don't forget the website. Plus, you can email us as well. We're previewing Queensland Raceway, the Coates Hire Ipswich 300. That's next weekend. Stay with us on Extra.
Tander up the inside at 2. That'd be a rare move. Could be a bit vulnerable to Whincup. Oh, he tries to go around the outside here. Whoa, side by side with Scape. And Whincup could go up the inside here.
Scape, Tander, contact. Whincup, will he be the winner out of all of this? Look at Tander. Inches, millimetres, less than that. Courtney will be thinking, not far to go now. Keep it straight. A breakthrough victory for James Courtney. The first of his career.
And that was an important one for James Courtney back in 2008, finally becoming a winner in the V8 Supercar Championship business. We're in the business today of previewing the Coates Hire Ipswich 300. Special guest is Todd Kelly from Jack Daniels Racing. Larko's with me as well. Todd, I worry a bit about you sometimes. You're only 32 years of age, but sometimes it's as though you're 52 years of age. You're like old blokes like us. You've got a lot on your plate. You're running a business. It's an ever-expanding business, as we talked about earlier in the program. It's been a tough year. Is there ever a point where you've considered, do I need to focus on the business aspect of it, or should I stay true to the whole notion of being a race driver?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I really don't want to hang up the helmet yet, but I can't do both the way that we've run the team in the last few years. It is a lot of work. We've nearly got 50 people full-time. We do everything in-house. We've got 14 different departments to run 4 and 5 cars, so someone has to kind of manage and coordinate all that, and at the moment our big goal is to get someone that can really take on a lot of the stuff I do at work so that I can get back into my driving.
Might be the case. You're on the right track there, Todd, but I don't know if you'll ever be able to distance yourself from that. I mean, I've seen this. I went through it, and Scafey's gone through it. I've seen it. Glenn Seaton, Brad Jones, guys that you got to that point in your driving. Yeah, there's a long list because the game in the modern era, just as you know, encompasses so much, and you find yourself coming in for a pit stop and you're looking at all the other things, your people, your pit equipment, and so it's tough. And I think it's great you recognise that.
Yeah, and I've always said I want to be the first one that can do it, to do both.
Yeah.
But we're not running a 1 or a 2 car team. At times we're running a 5 car team, and it is a big job. But like I said, I'm not finished with what I want to do in the car, and it's hard when you get into a little bit of a rut like I'm in right now. You have 3 or 4 rounds where it's not really that flash, things aren't clicking. You start to put a lot more pressure on yourself, and you get in the car and qualify with a lot of that burden on you, and it just doesn't come together, and that's kind of where I'm at now, and I really want to turn that around. in the next few rounds and show myself and everyone that, yeah, I can do it, and we'll get a bit of help within management and get cracking again.
You've had plenty of success in the past. I've got no doubt that you're well and truly capable of doing that. Now, this is a business that's jam-packed, riddled full of jargon, so Mark Larkham's duty today is to try and unravel some of it.
I want to get back to a bit of jargon busting. I'm here on an event. I've actually got Jonathan Webb's Mother Energy Falcon, all quiet in the garage here. I want to have a talk about a thing called camber. You hear the boys talk about it a lot. Well, let's delve in and have a little bit. Have a look at it. What is camber? Well, you often see, particularly on an open wheel, it looks like the car's been dropped out of a truck and the front wheels, boom, look a little like that. So the reason they do camber, or put camber on a car, is here's our racing slick. If you imagine you're going around a left-hand corner, you actually tilt the tyre over like this, usually about 6 or 7 degrees, because this part of the tyre underneath is trying to be ripped out from underneath because of the friction against the road. Now, as a race driver, I can tell you we love lots of camber, so you'd actually have it tilted right over if you could, but of course you can't because it has an enormous impact on the inside of the tyre, can really overheat it. So you can't overdo it. But as you can imagine, say at Winton on a cold day, the amount of grip there on a slow corner, you need a lot less camber than you would say at a Bathurst at McPhillamy Park, where there's a lot of load on the car. You'd actually want to have a lot of camber. So you've got to think about all those things. Now, of course, in the wet, when there's very little grip on the road, what they do is they stand the tyre up a lot, so it gets more tyre contact patch. And it is all about that tyre contact patch on the road. So let me show you in here where they actually adjust it. This is our front suspension, goes up and down, and in here there's little shims, so they just pull those shims out, and they can actually do it in a practice session to adjust this camber in and out. Now, whilst I'm in here, you can see all this range of adjustment in here. The other big ticket item that people talk about is toe in and toe out, very much part of your wheel alignment that they do on the race car. Now, sounds obvious, toe in, toe out. Now, if I have a look, I've actually drawn some lines on the ground here. Now, indicative of a modern race car, they might use, say, 4 to 6 millimetres of toe out on the front of the car, and that helps the car turn, just turns a little bit nicely. And on the rear of the car, they might put a little bit of toe in, because that gives the car stability in a straight line. Now, see my yellow lines I've drawn on the road here? The yellow one here, that's a straight ahead, so that's if the tyre was straight ahead. Now, I've anticipated that about 4 mil of toe out is that dotted line there. So you can sort of see well, it looks a little like Marty Feldman, really, doesn't it, the way the tyres are pointing. Now, if we look how they actually measure the toe out, Steve here, if we can just get over his shoulder, they actually use a ruler measuring against this string line. Can you see the little fishing line goes from the front to the rear of the car, and that's the most accurate way to do it. The thing I find really bizarre about all of this, in a world on the pit lane where there is hundreds of thousands of dollars of computer, infrastructure, technology, engineers, good old fishing line is still used to measure one of the most important performance adjustments on the race car.
Mark Larkham's wheel alignment, may we help you. We're going to wind the clock back to 2008 and sneak off to the break in a great stoush between Scaife, Richards and Kelly. Stay with us on V8 Extra.
The battle from turn 6 up to turn 1, it slides in front of Mark Scaife. Contact, they're gone. Both of them off the track, and Rick Kelly too.